Hey everybody, it's me. So this morning, daytime or whenever you're watching this video, I'm actually going to be making some peach cobbler, guys. So really simple recipe. It's actually a Paula Deen recipe that I came across, and I'm going to show you how I actually make it. But it's really easy to make. The ingredients are pretty simple, and it doesn't really take that long to put together. So the first thing you have to do, I always get the frozen peaches, and you need 4 cups of these. So I find it a lot easier since this is a 1 pound bag or 16 ounces. 2 of these actually equal 4 cups, which is what you're gonna need. So you're gonna start off by cooking these down in some sugar and some water. And that's why I've got my little induction cooktop here. So we're gonna get those ingredients in this pot, get them cooked, and then we'll get some other things prepped while we're waiting. Just pour those in there. You're gonna need a 1/2 cup of water and 1 cup of sugar. I already have the sugar measured out here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pour those in, and then I'll get a 1/2 cup of water. I don't use the tap water, I actually use some spring water. And these peaches are frozen, so they actually also have some water in them, so as they cook, that water will cook out and they'll soften. Put this probably on medium-high. We'll go ahead and start that on the highest wattage. And I kind of like to usually try to mix that together a little bit. As it heats, this will start melting, but you can start trying to stir it up a little bit. Just let that cook down. These are frozen, so I'm going to give them some heat. I'll actually probably turn it up to high. And we'll let that cook down. So these are all the ingredients. Cinnamon, we've got a stick of butter here, some sugar, and some flour. Self-rising, make sure you get self-rising, not all-purpose, because if you get all-purpose, it won't actually rise like it's supposed to. I made that mistake one time when I was first starting out making it. I also tend to like to bake in these steam table dishes. I'll go to Sam's and I'll get a pack of like 30 of these. I think it's really easy cleanup. You can just throw it away when you're done. That's still cooking down. Now this stick of butter, you're actually going to use the whole thing. So this is actually 8 tablespoons, which is what the recipe requires. This, you're actually going to just throw it down in the pan and put it in the oven and melt it. We're not going to do that yet. We're going to actually let these peaches cook down a little bit. And then we'll put it in there, but we can go ahead and actually put that in the pan. And this is actually salted butter. You can use salted or unsalted. It's kind of a personal preference. I like to use salted in a lot of things because I think it gives it a little bit more flavor. So that's still cooking down. I actually already measured out all of the flour. Here's the flour right here, our 1.5 cups. And then the sugar, you're actually going to do 2 cups total. I already put 1 cup in here, so 1 cup's actually going to be for the peaches, and this other cup is going to be for the batter that you're going to use to make the bread or whatever, the part of the cobbler. These are cooking down here. I'll usually start trying to break them up as they heat up a little bit. And this takes probably about a good 10 minutes to actually cook down. Just kind of watch it and make sure nothing gets scorched. So this is the only part of this where you're going to use a little cooktop. The rest of it's going to actually be done in the oven. And the great thing about an induction cooktop is it heats up extremely fast. So we're just going to let that go. Not really a whole lot we can do right now other than kind of tend to these. Hoping this will speed up to probably around 5 minutes. So we're just going to let that go. While we're waiting, we'll do some cleaning. So I was just sitting around and I actually came across this recipe. I actually want to make some cobbler. You can actually make a pretty decent blueberry cobbler using the same steps. It's just that instead of having the peaches, you'd actually do blueberries. I never tried it with anything other than blueberries, but it actually makes a nice blueberry cobbler as well. And then over time, you'll kind of learn how to tweak different recipes and things like that. That's kind of like what I did with this one. When I first did it, I didn't really put all the juices from the, you're going to actually use everything in this pot, and you'll see that here once we get to that step. I kind of did a little bit so it gave it more of a cakey texture. It was kind of like a cake with kind of a little bit of syrup baked in there, and then the peaches. But to fully do it and to have it fully come out to like you want it to be, you're actually going to pour all the juices in there. Now this is actually starting to boil, so this is doing very nicely. It'll probably cook up a little bit faster. And this is a great southern treat, if you will. I grew up in the South, so love my peaches. And this is really quick, and it's Sunday here, so it'll be a nice dessert to go along with dinner. There's another recipe that I'll end up sharing with you guys for maybe my banana pudding that I actually love to make. So we're letting that cook here, cook. This is probably the longest part of the entire process, is waiting for this to get done. And for a lot of these ingredients, I've actually used, you know, stuff that you can just find generic, if you will. I do a lot of shopping in Walmart, so you see I've got great value here. The butter's great value. The peaches are the great value brand as well. And you don't have to spend a whole lot in these recipes, I don't think. It just depends on what you make. As you cook and do more things, you'll kind of start learning what things you may need to buy brand name, what things you don't. And a lot of the stuff that I bake, I'll usually use the in-house brands. Same thing, more or less. Except probably when I get to my pound cake, I actually don't use generic lard or vegetable shortener for that. So that'll be another little session for another day. These are actually starting to cook down. That's why I love this induction cooktop. These are very interesting. They actually cook using magnetic properties, so you have to have special pots. But I think I got this little new wave thing from Kohl's. It was probably maybe around 50, 60 bucks. And I actually ended up getting the pot set, which it came with this bigger pot. And I also ended up getting, I think, a 5-quart and a 3-quart as well. And they're very, very nice pots. The inside actually has a nice copper finish, so very, very nice pots. This is cooking down here quite nicely. And I've got this heat on 425. That's what high this is. Crank it up to some sear here just to get it go a little bit quicker, so we're not staying here so long on this step. Now once you get to the mixing part, I actually use a KitchenAid mixer. It's a lifesaver. I use it for a lot of things, so you'll get to actually see that step. What I'll do once this gets a little bit further along, I'll probably go ahead and get the butter in the oven and get it to melting in that pan. So we're just going to watch this go for a little while. Now the holidays are actually coming up, and I actually like to do a lot of baking. So I'll be doing pies and cakes and different things like that. I actually make a pretty mean banana bread as well. But this was just kind of something I wanted to have and to eat because I haven't had it in a while. I had some probably a few weeks ago when I went to go visit my mom, and it was kind of that older style where it was really kind of like a pie crust on top. This will have a little bit more of kind of a, it's kind of an in-between, I guess. It's going to be a little bit more cake-like as far as the bread part of the cobbler goes, but I actually think it's really, really nice because it soaks up all those juices and stuff from the peaches that you cook really nicely. This is starting to boil here, which is a great sign. Growing up, my mom actually used to, we'd go to McLeod Farms, which is in McBee, and she'd get a bushel or two of peaches. They actually have a bunch of peach trees, so it's a peach farm. And she'd get maybe a bushel or two of those and come home and she'd peel them, and then she would cut them up and she'd put them in Ziploc bags and she'd freeze them. So throughout the winter, she would take a bag or two out. She'd cook it kind of like I'm doing now. It's really simple. It's a simple syrup essentially is what you're cooking these in. She'd take some sugar, some water, and she'd put the peaches in there and she'd cook them down so they were nice and soft. And then she would make some biscuits, and as we call it in the South, we just kind of sop that syrup up. So that's what we would do. We'd eat those peaches and we would they brought biscuits in there, we would eat them. So this is really kind of a nostalgia thing for me. It reminds me a lot of when my mom would do that, and I thought it was something kind of nice. I really haven't done the biscuit thing in a while. It might be something worth doing, but these are still cooking. These will probably have about another 3 minutes or so. We can actually probably go ahead and get this oven to preheating. We'll put it on a warm setting to go ahead and start warming these up. I actually usually keep kitchen gloves around. Don't really need these for this because I'm not really touching anything directly. Everything's already been kind of pre-sectioned off. Keep my kitchen towel handy here. So in the comment section below, if there's any things that you guys have done or that you cook or that you remember from your childhood, please feel free to share. These are cooking really, really nicely. This is awesome. That's why I love this. I put it on its max sear setting. It's actually doing a sear, so it's cooking it a lot faster. This takes it a step above that high setting. So we'll give these a few more minutes. In fact, I'm gonna probably leave them alone because everything's melted down, so we've got our simple syrup going. I'll put this back on high, and I'll actually set a timer for probably about 5 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 5 minutes.
All right, 5 minutes, starting now.
So she's on top of that. I'll get my oven going here. Check it and see if it's heating up, which it is very nicely. We could probably start the KitchenAid step, honestly. Make enough space over here. We're not just wasting time. Big boy here. So this is my KitchenAid. I actually have the Classic Plus, and it's in white, so I've got the most basic one. This one's 275 watts. Actually, at some point, I hope to have an Artisan, which will be very nice. But this one actually works wonders. Anybody that doesn't have a KitchenAid, it's actually worth the investment right now. I think they have these in Walmart for about $2.75. A little pricey up front, but it's definitely worth having. There's a lot of different attachments that you can use, which is very, very nice. And this guard didn't come with it. I actually bought this separately from the kitchen store at some outlets. But it's just kind of pretty standard. This bowl out here. Quick rinse. Now this is where we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients. Grab the milk. Now there's a couple different ways that you can go with this. You can use whole milk for this, 2%, 1%, whatever your poison is, if you will. I kind of have some dairy issues, have milk protein allergies, so I use almond milk in a lot of my baking. And a lot of people are like, oh, almond milk, I don't know how it's going to taste. It actually tastes really good. I always use vanilla because there's already some sweetness in it. I don't really use the original because it's kind of got more of a nutty flavor. This has that nutty flavor, but you've also got the sweetness from that vanilla in there. So this is what I tend to use. So I've pre-measured out the sugar, so go ahead and get that cup of sugar that you've divided off. Go ahead and pour it down in there. And you want to go ahead and add your flour to the recipe as well. Now, where you have to be careful with this, and I sifted this. Some flour is pre-sifted, like this bag of flour is pre-sifted, but I still like to sift it a little bit anyway to make it a little bit smaller to help cut down on clumping. I'll go ahead and pour all of that down in here too. And this batter is extremely simple as well. And so into that, you're going to add 1.5 cups of your milk, and like I said, I'm using almond milk. So where's my measuring cup at? It's right here. I'll use this guy here. And while all that's going on, go ahead and get that butter melting as well. So this guy here, you're gonna go ahead and get that in the oven and get it melting. I preheated on warm. I'm gonna turn that up to probably around 300. Let that get going. guys notice I constantly, oh, these are probably done. I can smell them, yellow gather. Getting closer to being done. Really nicely. I actually turned my conduction top down to medium. I'm going to let these cook a little bit longer while I am mixing up the batter. They're actually cooking down really nicely. So I do a cup and a half of this. I usually give it a quick shake and make sure anything that's settled mixes back together. That's my cup and a half. Put this back in the fridge. Two ways I can do this. I'll probably do it this way instead of using the guard, so I can kind of monitor what I'm adding a little bit better. I'm just going to put that down, lock it on this side. I'll do a little bit, put it on its stir setting, which stir on a KitchenAid is kind of its lowest setting. Hey Google, stop. Alright, that was the timer that I set for that, but I'm going to just let it cook down a little bit more. Slowly add that, and this is the stir setting, so it's really, really slow. I'm going to turn this up to a little bit faster, so about a 2, and I'm going to let it kind of blend all that down. So we'll let that go. And we still have probably about a half a cup left. In the meantime, I'll do some tidying up, putting things away. It's kind of my method when I cook. I like to put things away and kind of clean as I go, so I don't have at the end of it to put everything away. Makes it a little bit easier in the kitchen. That's turning out really nice. So then I'm going to add a little bit more. And just slowly, just tilt it slowly, kind of on the side. If you're using a freestand mixer, just kind of pour it in there on the side. Now, if you've ever made pancakes or waffles, this batter will remind you a lot of it and how it looks. It's going to be a little on the soupy side, which is fine. Rest of our milk in there, and I'll just let that go. Got water, check the peaches again. And these actually kind of start to foam as you're cooking them. So kind of keep an eye on that. You may need to adjust your heat. And I usually just let these go the whole time that I'm doing my mixing. I can probably go down another step for medium, which is 275 to medium low, which is 175. Let's let that go. We're going to check that butter here in just a second. Wash this measuring cup out. And towel action here. This batter looks really, really good. I'll show it to you guys once I pull it off the mixer. So my butter is almost melted. Turn that up to 400, speed that up, and we'll go back to the peaches. So there's really probably, honestly, 3 main steps in this. You get your peaches going and cooking down in this simple syrup. You get your batter going, and then you melt that butter. That's honestly all there is. So you can honestly divide this recipe into 3 steps. It's really simple. Simple, but it is delicious. Stir those. So once that butter melts, we'll actually be done. So this batter, it's about as mixed as it's going to get. Turn this up one more step. I'll take it back down because this is actually a really soupy batter, so I don't want to. Now, you can also use cinnamon. There's my cinnamon. That step's optional. You don't have to put the cinnamon on top once we get everything in the pan, but you can if you choose to do so. These bowls out of the way while we're waiting. The butter was right there, so it is almost ready to be added, or to pulled out of the oven, I should say. My towel here. Turn that batter off, it should be good to go. Butter stick's almost there. Let's check on these peaches. They're not simmering anymore, so just kind of doing them kind of low and slow right now. And you can cook these for a while. There's really not a way to overcook them. I mean, some people may like a little bit more texture to their peaches, but I don't mind if they're softer. You just don't want to cook it to the point that all of the sugar in this water starts to caramelize and start forming a really thick syrup. It's only a cup of sugar, so it really won't thicken that much anyway. So, I'm gonna bake this, I believe, at 350. Time to pull that out and slide that back. Now I have these guys right here for handling hot stuff. So there's some little cork trivets. I actually got these out of IKEA. I like them a lot because when I'm baking it, I have something hot because we're going to take this off of the heat. You can just sit it right on top of these little cork things. I think these are about anywhere between $3 and $5. They're probably more like $4 considering it was IKEA, but you get 3 of them. You get a set of 3. Butter starting to caramelize. So you use one of these when you get this pan of butter out of the oven. It's starting to actually caramelize some more. Very sizzling here. Alright, so we're going to turn this off. And I'll show you guys this batter. Like. So that's kind of the consistency of it. It's a little watery, but that's perfectly fine. So what you're going to do now, excuse me, so you're going to pour this mixture over the butter, which I'll show you guys. I have oven mitts because that is hot. And it's just some melted butter. It started actually cooking a little bit, but that's the butter. Okay. And you're not going to stir this, you're just going to pour it on top. Pour the batter in there just like that. Beautiful. And like I said, I like to kind of clean as I go. I'm gonna let that soak while we're doing the rest of this. So you don't have to stir this at all. You're just gonna pour it in there. You'll see the butter kind of rise to the top. Of course, the more dense liquid's gonna settle on the bottom. And then what you're gonna do, let me find my slotted spoon. Slide this over a little bit. Let's actually move this mixer out of the way. Kind of more of a workspace. Thank you. All right. Now comes the adding the peaches part. I usually start out with a slotted spoon, so all you're going to really do for this step is you're just going to take these, you're going to scoop them up, and you're going to kind of place them down in here. That's really all there is to it. Cook down, so I'm just going to kind of place them in there. Try to be evenly and spread them throughout. This actually out of the way. Trivet. This is a little on the hot side. Alright. This is all I'm going to do. I'm just going to scoop these up. Just kind of place them throughout. Try to make it even. So that each bite you get some of the peaches in there. When I make this more cake-like, you can actually slice it. I just always like to make sure that I kind of spread everything evenly. This is actually a lot of peaches too. This is going to be great. methodical. That's kind of how I like to take my time. Don't rush it. You don't need to. Sprinkle there. And the rest of the syrup you're actually going to pour into the cobbler as well. I already mentioned that, but so nothing's going to go to waste. You guys can smell this. This is amazing. It smells. Okay. The last thing, we've got some of this left, which is a simple syrup. And I just take it. I'm just gonna pour it all down in there. Every last bit of it. Beautiful. So I'm gonna bring you guys down off the tripod here so you can actually